I'd like to ask you about the missile defenses and the threat posed by Iran. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov says North Korea poses a fundamental threat, but Iran does not. The president said today that Iran is going to have the ability to strike the United States and many European allies by 2015. How do you reconcile the two positions?
Well, the president, look, I go back to what the United Nations Security Council unanimously has said, which is that Iran should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. We have provided a path for Iran to have a civilian nuclear power program, and Russia has been very supportive of that as well. The president spoke to President Putin yesterday. He said that he feels confident that Russia agrees that Iran should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And what the president was talking about today is a anti-ballistic missile system that would protect our country and countries that are allies of ours, such as the NATO countries, from threats near and far. And we have a system now that's up and running in Alaska and California. We'd like to provide the same for our European partners for threats from countries like Iran.
But do you find it troubling that Russia is saying that Iran is not a threat?
I think that the president feels confident that Russia believes that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. What we're doing right now is having discussions with the Czechoslovakia government and the Polish government to talk about basing arrangements. Where would we put the missile defense system? Those discussions are ongoing. At the same time, the president has directed Secretary Gates and Secretary Rice to work with Vladimir Putin's government in Russia in order to identify possible areas of cooperation.
About what Secretary Gates said today and what the President said today. The President said that it's a serious situation we need to take care of now as far as the missile defense system in Europe. Secretary Gates said that there might be this deal where they could build it but not activate it until there is definitive proof of a missile threat from Iran. How do you kind of square the two statements there at the same time?
I think that we're all talking about the same thing, which is that we want to have a diplomatic solution to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. If we get to the point where Iran decides that they do not want to have a nuclear weapon, where we can verify that, then we might decide that it wouldn't be necessary eventually. But we are working towards getting that through the basing arrangements, getting the technology organized, and starting to build those platforms.
Are you saying that if Iran backs off its nuclear program, there's no need to activate the missile defense?
Well, not necessarily. I think that what he was saying is an idea based on Iran. I haven't talked to Secretary Gates. Obviously, he's over in Europe. The way I read it is that he was proposing an idea that we go ahead and do what we said we would do, get the system built so that we can have it in place. And we do believe that we are going to need it to prevent against a threat from Iran. But I think what Secretary Gates was talking about is the possibility of it maybe not having to be deployed if we can verify that Iran doesn't have ballistic weapons that they could aim at our NATO allies or at us. But those are a lot of ifs. It's one of the reasons we don't answer hypotheticals, and so I'll move on. Helen?
The President authorized Cheney to threaten Iran with serious consequences, same language that we went into Iraq on.
Helen, I don't believe that the Vice President threatened Iran, and I don't think that he said anything different than what the President has said before.
Consequences, same language.
No, the Vice President didn't say anything different from what the President has said before. If you look at the Vice President's speech, he said, we want to try to solve this diplomatically, but no President is going to take any option off the table.
Representative Pete Stark addressed the House today to apologize to colleagues, to the President and to his family, and also to U.S. troops offended by his remarks, saying that he hopes that with the apology he'll become as insignificant as he should be in the continuing debates over Iraq and health care. Does the President accept his apology?
This is the first I've heard of it. If it's true that he has apologized, I think that's appropriate. I hadn't heard it.
Turkey, apparently leaders there are now raising the prospects of possible U.S.-Turkish joint military operations against the PKK. Any reaction to that? Are you open to that idea? Is that a good idea?
Well, let me just remind you that yesterday the President reached out by civets to Prime Minister Maliki, and he also spoke by phone to President Gül of Turkey. We do not want to see additional violence in that region. That said, I would refer you to the multinational forces in Iraq to see what sort of support that they can provide. I am not aware of any American support for an airstrike like you said, but actionable intelligence is something that we can provide.